Susan Miller stood at the viewport of Outpost Zenith, staring into the darkness of space. Small lights from distant stars dotted the blackness. The massive asteroid field of the Serpens Nebula spread out before her, hiding the outpost from unwanted eyes. As commander of humanity's furthest military installation from Earth, Susan spent most of her days watching and waiting. For over 100 years, humans had quietly moved across hundreds of star systems. They built colonies, mining stations, and military bases, all without being noticed by the three major powers that ruled the galaxy. The Vargon hegemony were warriors who conquered whatever they found. The Threll Conclave were an ancient race who looked down on younger species. The Meridian sovereignty possessed technology far beyond what humans had created. All three had existed for millions of years before humans left Earth. Susan remembered the stories from her academy days. In 2183, Earth's deep space listening posts picked up alien signals for the first time. The world leaders faced a choice: announce humanity's presence to the stars or stay hidden until they were strong enough to survive among these ancient giants. They chose to hide. The Phantom Protocol was born from that decision. Scientists developed stealth technology that masked human electromagnetic signatures. Engineers created special jump drives that left no trace when ships moved between stars. Military planners only approved expansion into empty regions of the Orion Spur where no alien eyes watched. For a century, humanity grew stronger in the shadows. "Thinking deep thoughts again, Commander?" a voice asked from behind her. Susan turned to see Lieutenant Alan Price, her tactical officer and closest friend on the outpost. His red hair was cut short according to regulations, but his smile always bent the rules. "Just the usual worries," Susan replied. "Wondering if we'll ever stop hiding." Alan joined her at the viewport. "Maybe someday. Until then, we keep the borders safe." Susan nodded. Their job was simple but vital: monitor the space between human territory and Vargon-controlled systems. Outpost Zenith floated at the edge of what humans called the Phantom Zone, the invisible line they dared not cross. "Any updates from the mining colonies?" Susan asked, returning to work mode. Alan checked his tablet. "All quiet. Epsilon 12 reports. They're ahead of schedule on the new deep core extraction. Otherwise, nothing unusual." Susan was about to respond when her communication panel beeped. "Incoming priority message from Central Command," she said, pressing the accept button. Admiral George Fletcher's face appeared on screen. His gray hair and lined face showed his 60 years of service. "Commander Miller, Lieutenant Price," he greeted them formally. "Admiral," they both responded, straightening their postures. "I'll be arriving at Zenith tomorrow at 800 hours, Fletcher said without any small talk. "We have matters to discuss that can't be trusted to communications channels." Susan tried to hide her surprise. The annual inspection wasn't due for another 3 months. For the fleet admiral himself to travel to their remote outpost meant something major had changed. "We'll prepare for your arrival, sir," Susan replied. Fletcher nodded once before ending the transmission. Alan let out a low whistle. "That can't be good news." "No," Susan agreed. "Have the staff quarters prepared for the admiral and call a meeting with all department heads in 1 hour." As Alan left to carry out her orders, Susan turned back to the viewport. Out there in the darkness, something had changed. She could feel it. Across the Phantom Zone, exactly 37 light-years from Outpost Zenith, mining colony Epsilon 12 buzzed with activity. The colony was one of humanity's newest resource extraction sites, built on an unremarkable planet, orbiting a yellow dwarf star. Its only value lay beneath the barren surface, rare minerals crucial for starship construction. Chief Engineer Peter Martinez walked through the colony's main corridor, nodding to workers as he passed. At 38, Peter had earned his position through years of hard work and brilliant solutions to complex problems. Epsilon 12 was his first command, and after 6 months, operations were running smoothly. "How's the new deep core extractor performing?" Peter asked his assistant, Lisa Brown, as she joined him. Lisa handed him a tablet showing the morning reports. 15% above projected output. "We've never hit a mineral vein this rich before." Peter smiled as he reviewed the numbers. "If this keeps up, we'll finish 6 weeks ahead of schedule. Central Command will be pleased." They entered the Control room where a dozen technicians monitored the massive machinery, digging far below the planet's surface. Screens showed real-time data from the extraction site 3.2 kilometers down. "Sir," called out one of the technicians, "we're getting unusual readings from Sector 7. Peter moved to the station and studied the display. Energy levels from the deep core extractor were fluctuating. "What's causing this?" The technician shook his head. "Unknown, sir. The mineral composition in that sector doesn't match our survey data." "Pull back the drill head," Peter ordered. "Let's run a detailed scan." Before continuing, but before the technician could respond, alarms blared throughout the control room. Red warning lights flashed on every screen. "Energy surge," Lisa shouted. "The drill has hit some kind of reactive mineral pocket." Peter rushed to the main console. "Activate containment protocols! Shut down the extractor!" The technicians worked frantically, but the energy readings continued to climb. Deep below the surface, the unknown minerals were reacting with the extractor's energy field, creating a cascade effect that raced up through the machinery. "Stealth systems failing," another technician called out. "We're broadcasting across all frequencies." Peter felt cold fear grip his chest. For 100 years, human colonies had maintained perfect radio silence. The Phantom Protocol was absolute. No signals that could be detected by alien civilizations. Now Epsilon 12 was lighting up the darkness like a beacon. "Emergency power to the stealth generators," Peter commanded. "Divert everything we have." For 17 long minutes, Epsilon 12 broadcast its human signatures across nearby space. Every system, every machine, every human life sign was detectable to anyone listening. Then, finally, the backup systems engaged and silence returned to the colony. Peter stared at the damage reports with a growing sense of dread. "Send an encrypted burst transmission to Central Command," he told Lisa, his voice deadly serious. "Priority Alpha. Use my authorization code." "What's the message?" Lisa asked, her face pale. Peter took a deep breath. "Phantom Protocol breached at Epsilon 12. Duration 17 minutes. Request immediate assistance." As the message was sent through the secure quantum channel, Peter wondered if anyone had been listening during those 17 minutes. If anyone had heard humanity's whisper in the dark. Unknown to the humans, a Vargon scout vessel designated Hunter's Eye had been on routine patrol near the borders of hegemony space. Captain Drelvac, a young officer eager to prove himself worthy of greater command, noticed the strange energy spike on his sensors. "Report," he barked to his science officer. "Unknown energy signature, Captain. Origin point is from the empty system H2209. Drelvac's inner eyelids blinked in surprise. That system had been scanned years ago and classified as uninhabited. "Change course," he ordered, feeling the thrill of discovery. "We will investigate this anomaly." The Vargon ship turned silently toward Epsilon 12, unaware that it was about to uncover the greatest secret in the galaxy and trigger a war that would change everything. Captain Olivia Wright paced the bridge of the stealth frigate Eclipse. Central Command had pulled her ship from patrol duty near Earth and sent them rushing toward Epsilon 12 at maximum speed. The mission briefing had been short and terrifying. The Phantom Protocol had been breached. "ETA to Epsilon 12? Olivia asked her navigator. 4 hours, 17 minutes, Captain," came the reply. Olivia nodded and turned to her executive officer. "Commander Daniels, prepare the rapid response team. Full combat gear." Commander Frank Daniels stood from his station. He was a tall man, with dark skin and 15 years of military experience. "Are we expecting trouble, Captain?" "I'm expecting everything and anything," Olivia replied. "This is what we've trained for our entire careers, but hoped would never happen." Frank nodded grimly and left the bridge to assemble the team. Olivia continued pacing, her mind racing through scenarios. The Phantom Protocol had kept humanity safe for a century. Now, because of one mining accident, everything could fall apart. "Captain," her communications officer called. "Incoming transmission from Epsilon 12. "Put it through," Olivia ordered. Chief Engineer Peter Martinez appeared on screen. His face was tired and worry lines creased his forehead. "Captain Wright, thank you for responding so quickly." "Report, Chief. What's your situation?" "We've stabilized the colony systems," Peter explained. All stealth measures are back online, but we broadcast for 17 minutes before containment, full spectrum emissions. Olivia felt her stomach tighten. Any sign of response or detection? Nothing yet. But our sensor range is limited. Keep your people calm and ready, Olivia said. Eclipse will arrive in 4 hours, right out. As the screen went dark, Olivia turned to her tactical officer. Run continuous passive scans as we approach. I want to know if anything else is heading toward that colony. 4 hours later, the Eclipse dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the far side of the planet from Epsilon 12. The stealth systems engaged immediately, making the ship nearly invisible to all known detection methods. Anything on scanners? Olivia asked. All clear, Captain, her tactical officer replied. No sign of... Wait. He leaned forward, studying his readings. I'm picking up an energy signature approaching the system. It doesn't match any human vessel. Olivia moved to look at his screen. Can you identify it? Based on our intelligence files, it's consistent with Vargon Scout-class vessels. They'll reach the planet in approximately 3 hours. Olivia's mind worked quickly. How long to reach the colony? 30 minutes using surface approach to maintain stealth. Do it, she ordered. And alert Commander Daniels. We need to evacuate that colony before the Vargons arrive. The Eclipse descended through the planet's atmosphere, using cloud cover and mountain ranges to mask its approach. When they finally reached Epsilon 12, Peter Martinez was waiting at the landing pad with Lisa Brown beside him. Captain Wright, Peter greeted her as she exited the ship with Frank and the response team. We're ready for inspection. This isn't an inspection, Chief, Olivia replied bluntly. We have a Vargon scout vessel approaching this system. You need to evacuate immediately. Peter's face paled. How long do we have? Less than 3 hours. Gather your essential personnel and critical data. Everything else stays behind. Peter nodded and turned to Lisa. Start the evacuation protocol. Priority personnel and research data first. As the colony burst into activity, Frank approached. Olivia. Captain, we should consider destroying the facility after evacuation. Leave no evidence behind. Olivia frowned. That would take time we might not have. We can't let the Vargons find proof of human presence, Frank insisted. The protocol is clear. Before Olivia could respond, her communicator beeped. Captain, this is Eclipse. The alien vessel has accelerated. New estimated arrival time, 57 minutes. Olivia's decision was immediate. Change of plans. Essential. Personnel and data only. We lift off in 40 minutes. The evacuation became chaotic but controlled. Years of drills and training paid off as colony workers moved with purpose. The most important research data was copied, and the original servers prepared for destruction. Peter worked alongside his team, helping carry equipment to the Eclipse. What about the mineral samples from the accident site? He asked Olivia. They're unlike anything we've seen before. Bring them, she decided. Central Command will want to know exactly what caused this mess. With 10 minutes to spare, the last of the essential personnel boarded the Eclipse. 43 people had been evacuated, leaving 17 volunteers behind to maintain the appearance of normal operations and trigger the colony's self-destruct sequence once the Eclipse was safely away. All secure, Captain, Frank reported, as Olivia returned to the bridge. Take us out, she ordered. Maintain stealth protocols and plot a course that will keep us hidden behind the planet's moon. As the Eclipse lifted off, Peter joined Olivia on the bridge. What happens to the people we left behind? He asked quietly. If everything goes according to plan, they'll destroy all evidence and escape in the emergency pods, Olivia explained. We'll pick them up after the Vargon ship leaves. The Eclipse slipped away from Epsilon 12, its advanced stealth systems making it invisible to standard sensors. They settled into position behind the planet's largest moon, watching and waiting. Vargon vessel entering the system now, the tactical officer announced. They're on a direct course for the planet. On the main screen, they watched as the alien ship approached. It was smaller than the Eclipse, but covered in sensor arrays and scanning equipment. A scout vessel designed to find things that didn't want to be found. They're scanning the planet, the tactical officer reported, focusing on the colony site. Minutes ticked by in tense silence. Then alarms flashed across the tactical station. The colony's emergency destruct system just activated, the officer said. Detonation in 3 minutes. Olivia frowned. That's too early. They were supposed to wait until... Captain, the Vargan ship is launching landing craft, the tactical officer interrupted. They're heading for the colony. Frank stepped forward. They must have detected our people. Can we get a message to the colony? Olivia asked. The communications officer shook his head. Any transmission would be detected by the Vargan ship. Olivia faced an impossible choice. If the Vargans captured human personnel, they would learn about the Phantom Protocol and the extent of human expansion. But if she engaged the alien vessel, it would confirm humanity's presence in the system. Weapons status, she said finally. All systems ready, Captain, Frank replied. Target their landing craft only, Olivia ordered. We need to give our people time to escape. And the Vargan ship? Frank asked. Olivia's face hardened. One problem at a time, Commander. The Eclipse moved out from behind the moon, weapons charged, but stealth systems still engaged. On the colony surface, the 17 human volunteers raced toward their escape pods as the self-destruct countdown continued and alien craft descended from above. The Shadow War was about to step into the light. Admiral George Fletcher arrived at Outpost Zenith exactly at 800 hours. His personal shuttle docked with perfect precision, and Susan Miller waited in the arrival bay to greet him. She noted the 4 armed guards who exited first, something unusual even for an admiral's visit. Commander Miller, Fletcher said as he stepped through the airlock. His voice sounded tired. Let's move this to your secure briefing room immediately. Susan led the way without asking questions. Alan Price joined them as they walked through the station corridors. The Admiral said nothing until they reached the briefing room, and his security team confirmed it was safe from any listening devices. Sit down, Fletcher ordered once the door sealed shut. What I'm about to tell you changes everything. Susan and Alan exchanged worried glances as they took their seats. 12 hours ago, mining colony Epsilon 12 suffered a catastrophic systems failure, Fletcher began. Their stealth measures went offline for 17 minutes. During that time, they broadcast full human signatures across all frequencies. Susan felt her heart sink. Was anyone listening? A Vargon scout ship detected the emissions and investigated, Fletcher confirmed. Captain Wright on the Eclipse attempted an evacuation, but the situation... He paused, choosing his words carefully. The situation escalated. Escalated how? Alan asked. The Vargons launched landing craft toward the colony. Wright engaged to protect our people on the ground. Fletcher's face was grim. It was the first direct combat between humans and aliens in our history. Susan tried to process this information. For a century, humanity had hidden in the shadows, building strength while avoiding notice. Now, in a single day, everything had changed. The Eclipse destroyed 2 Vargon landing craft before the main scout ship targeted them, Fletcher continued. Wright was forced to eliminate the Vargon vessel, but not before it transmitted a partial data package back to their command. So they know about us now? Alan said quietly. Not everything, but enough, Fletcher agreed. We estimate we have less than 2 weeks before the Vargon hegemony mounts a proper investigation into what happened. Susan leaned forward. What are our orders, Admiral? Outpost Zenith is now our forward command post. We're mobilizing the 7th Fleet to your position. Every military vessel we can spare is being deployed along the Phantom Zone border. Alan's eyes widened. The entire 7th Fleet? That's over 60 warships. 67 to be exact, Fletcher corrected. Plus support vessels. Susan tried to imagine so many ships gathered in one place. Throughout human expansion, they had carefully spread their military assets across hundreds of systems to avoid creating detectable patterns. There's more, Fletcher said. We have 3 options on the table, and Central Command is still debating which to pursue. He activated the holographic display in the center of the table, showing a map of known space. Option 1, diplomatic revelation. We contact the three major powers, explain our presence, and hope for acceptance. The display shifted to show projected conflict zones. Option 2. Prepare for immediate conflict. We assume the Vargons will attack once they confirm our existence, and we strike first at key military targets. The display changed again, showing strange energy patterns near Threll space. Option 3. Operation Stardust. We trigger a series of artificially created stellar phenomena near Threll territory. The resulting disturbance would require investigation by all major powers, buying us time to reposition our forces and strengthen our borders. Susan studied the third option. Creating stellar phenomena? How is that possible? The quantum reactive minerals from Epsilon 12, Fletcher explained. We've known about their unusual properties for years, but kept the research classified. When properly stimulated, they can create energy distortions visible across several light years. That's why Captain Wright brought back samples, Alan realized. Fletcher nodded. The Joint Chiefs will make their decision within 24 hours. Until then, we prepare for all possibilities. He turned to Alan. Lieutenant Price, you're promoted to commander, effective immediately. You'll lead a special operations team tasked with infiltrating Vargon communication hubs. If war is coming, we need to know their movements. Alan straightened in his chair. Yes, sir. Fletcher then addressed Susan. Commander Miller, you'll coordinate the fleet movements from Zenith. This outpost is now the most important military installation in human space. The responsibility settled on Susan's shoulders like a physical weight. I understand, Admiral. As Fletcher continued outlining their preparations, an alert sounded from the communication panel. Susan answered it. Quickly. Commander, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Eclipse, reported the communications officer. They've arrived in system and request immediate docking clearance. Granted, Susan replied. She turned to Fletcher. Sir, this might be our chance to get a first-hand account of what happened. 30 minutes later, Captain Olivia Wright stood in the briefing room. Her uniform was wrinkled and dark circles shadowed her eyes. Behind her stood Chief Engineer Peter Martinez, looking equally exhausted. Captain, report, Fletcher ordered. Olivia stood straight despite her fatigue. Admiral, after engaging the Vargon scout ship, we confirmed it transmitted partial data before destruction. We couldn't recover the Vargon crew. Most died in the battle, but 3 escaped in life pods to a nearby moon. Any survivors from our colony? Susan asked. 12 of the 17 volunteers made it to escape pods before the self-destruct sequence completed, Olivia answered, pain evident in her voice. We recovered them after the engagement. Peter stepped forward. Sir, I need to report something about the minerals that caused this incident. Fletcher gestured for him to continue. The quantum reactive properties are more powerful than our initial readings suggested, Peter explained. When properly channeled, they could create energy signatures that mimic natural stellar phenomena, but on a massive scale. Operation Stardust, Fletcher murmured. Peter looked confused. Sir? Nothing, Chief. Fletcher turned to address everyone in the room. What happened at Epsilon 12 was tragic, but now we must focus on what comes next. The Phantom Protocol protected us for a century, but that time is over. He walked to the viewport looking out at the stars that now held new dangers for humanity. We built our empire in the shadows, Fletcher said quietly. Now we must prepare to defend it in the light. On the bridge of his flagship, Vargon Fleet Commander Gulthar reviewed the partial transmission from the lost scout vessel. The data was incomplete, but showed clear evidence of artificial structures on a planet believed to be uninhabited. More disturbing were the energy readings, technology that didn't match any known civilization. Analysis? He demanded of his science officer. The signatures do not match Threll or Meridian patterns, the officer replied. They appear to be from an unknown species. Gulthar's predatory instinct stirred. An unknown species with advanced technology, hiding at the edges of Vargon space. Unacceptable. Prepare the battle fleet, he ordered. We will investigate this mystery and eliminate any threat to the hegemony. In the silence of deep space, warships began to move. The time for shadows had ended. The time for war had begun. 6 days after the Epsilon 12 incident, the emergency broadcast system activated across all human colonies and outposts. Screens lit up with the same message. Protocol Sunbreak is in effect. The Shadow War has begun. On Earth, the President addressed the Joint Chiefs in an underground command center. The decision had been made. Operation Stardust would proceed immediately, followed by a defensive posture along all borders of human space. At Outpost Zenith, Susan Miller watched as the 7th Fleet assembled. 67 warships and their support vessels formed a massive, defensive line along the Phantom Zone. The sight was both impressive and terrifying. Never before had humans gathered so many military assets in one place. Fleet formation complete, Commander, her tactical officer reported. Susan nodded. Status of Operation Stardust? Science vessels are in position near the Threll border. They await final authorization. Susan checked the time. Admiral Fletcher was on a secure call with Earth Command. Once he returned, the operation would begin. Peter Martinez stood on the science vessel Galileo, overseeing the final preparations. The quantum reactive minerals from Epsilon 12 had been processed into special devices his team called starbursts. When activated, each would create an energy distortion visible across several light years, mimicking the early stages of a stellar anomaly. All starbursts show green status, Lisa Brown reported. She had joined Peter's team after the evacuation. Deployment vessels ready on your command. Peter checked his own readings. Send the ready signal to Admiral Fletcher. On the bridge of his command ship, Fletcher received the message. He turned to his communication officer. Send the authorization code. Operation Stardust is go. Deep in space near the Threll border, small unmanned vessels released their payloads. 27 starbursts activated simultaneously, creating energy distortions that rippled across space. To any observer, it would appear that multiple stars were experiencing unprecedented activity. Just as planned, all 3 major galactic powers detected the phenomenon. The Threll Conclave, whose territory was nearest to the distortions, diverted significant resources to investigate. The Meridian Sovereignty sent science vessels to study what they believed might be a natural but rare stellar event. Even the Vargon hegemony paused their planned investigation of the Epsilon 12 incident to assess this new development. But the diversion bought less time than humanity hoped. Fleet Commander Golthar was too focused on his original mission. While most Vargon resources were redirected, he maintained his course toward human space with 15 battle cruisers, a smaller force than originally planned, but still deadly. Alan Price and his Special Operations team intercepted the Vargon battle group's communications from their hidden position aboard the stealth ship Phantom. They're still coming, he reported to Outpost Zenith. Estimated arrival at the Serpent's Edge in 18 hours. Susan received the report and immediately called a strategy meeting with Admiral Fletcher and Captain Wright. The diversion worked. Partially, she explained. Instead of their full fleet, we face 15 Vargon battle cruisers. Fletcher's face remained calm, but his eyes showed concern. We have superior numbers, but they have experience. The Vargons have fought wars against both the Threll and Meridians. We've never faced alien combat outside of simulations. We have one advantage they don't expect, Olivia Wright pointed out. Our stealth technology is more advanced than anything they've encountered. The Eclipse was able to approach and attack before they could respond effectively. Susan studied the tactical display. We could position stealth squadrons here and here, she suggested, pointing to areas along the projected Vargon approach. Hit-and-run attacks to break up their formation before they reach our main fleet. Fletcher nodded slowly. Make it happen. Captain Wright will command the stealth squadron. Commander Miller, you'll coordinate from Zenith. As they prepared for battle, Susan couldn't help but think about how quickly everything had changed. One accident had exposed a century of secrecy. Now, humanity faced its first interstellar war. 16 hours later, long-range sensors detected the Vargon battle group entering the Serpent system. They moved in tight formation, weapons charged and shields at maximum. All ships, battle stations, Susan ordered from Zenith's command center. Stealth Squadron, begin approach. Captain Wright led 12 stealth frigates toward the oncoming Vargon fleet. Her ships were nearly invisible to standard sensors, their advanced technology the result of decades of development in the shadows. Weapons. Range in 30 seconds, Wright's tactical officer reported. Targets locked. All ships fire on my mark, Wright commanded. Target their sensor arrays and propulsion systems. 3-2-1 mark. 12 stealth frigates fired simultaneously. Energy beams cut through space, striking the Vargon ships before they could detect the attack. 3 battlecruisers suffered significant damage and fell out of formation. Evasive. Maneuvers, Wright ordered as the Vargons returned fire blindly. Second attack run in 60 seconds. On his flagship, Fleet Commander Gulthar raged as damage reports flooded in. What is happening? He demanded. Unknown vessels, Commander, his second replied. They appear and disappear from our sensors. We cannot get a lock. Gulthar had never seen such technology. The Threll relied on overwhelming force, the Meridians on defensive measures. This hit-and-run approach was new and effective. Adjust. Sensors to widest spectrum, he ordered. Find those ships. The stealth squadron struck 3 more times, disabling 2 more Vargon vessels before they adapted. On the 4th attack run, Vargon sensors detected faint traces of the human ships. There, Gulthar shouted. All ships, fire on those coordinates. Energy weapons and missiles filled space where Wright's squadron had been seconds before. 1. Human frigate reacted too slowly and exploded under the barrage. We've lost the Artemis, Wright reported to Zenith. The Vargons are adapting to our stealth signatures. Fall back to the main fleet, Susan ordered. You've done your part. As the stealth squadron retreated, the main human fleet moved forward. 55 warships against 10 damaged Vargon battlecruisers. The numbers favored humanity, but Gulthar was a veteran of countless battles. Spread formation, he commanded, his remaining ships. Target their largest vessels first. The Battle of Serpent's Edge, as it would later be called, lasted for 6 hours. Human ships fought with technology that could phase in and out of detection. Vargon vessels countered with weapon systems more powerful than anything humanity had developed. Both sides suffered losses. Alan Price and his team managed to infiltrate Gulthar's flagship during the chaos. They slipped aboard using portable stealth fields and made their way to the main computer core. Download everything, Alan ordered as they secured the room. Fleet movements, communication protocols, technical specifications, everything. As his team worked, Alan discovered something alarming. The Vargons had already contacted both the Threll and Meridians, sharing data about the human infestation near their borders. The 3 major powers, often at odds with each other, were discussing a joint response to this new potential threat. We need to get this information to Admiral Fletcher now, Alan said. Plant the charges, we're leaving. The human fleet gained the upper hand as the battle continued. Vargon numbers dwindled until only Gulthar's flagship and 2 escorts remained. Surrender your vessels, Admiral Fletcher transmitted. We offer terms for your survival. Gulthar's response was immediate. The hegemony does not surrender. Before Fletcher could respond, Alan's team detonated their charges inside the Vargon flagship. Critical systems failed across the massive ship, rendering it defenseless. It was humanity's first victory against an alien power. But as Susan Miller looked at the sensor readings showing more Vargon ships gathering beyond their borders, she knew it was only the beginning of a much larger war. 6 months after the Battle of Serpent's Edge, Susan Miller sat in the observation lounge of Harmony Point, the new diplomatic station positioned at the borders of all 4 civilizations. Through the large viewport, she could see ships from each species holding position at respectful distances: human, Vargon, Threll, and Meridian. Everything secure for the summit? Susan asked, not turning from the view. Alan Price reviewed his tablet before answering. All security protocols active. Each delegation has been scanned and cleared. So much had changed in half a year. After capturing Fleet Commander Gulthar and accessing Vargon communication systems, Admiral Fletcher had made a bold move. He broadcast a message to all 3 galactic powers simultaneously. We are humanity. We have lived among you in silence for a century. not out of malice but caution. We sought only to ensure our survival before making our presence known. We desire peace, but as you have now witnessed, we are prepared for war." The response came, swiftly. The Vargon hegemony demanded immediate military action against the human deception. They called for the other powers to join them in eliminating this threat before it grew stronger. The Threll Conclave, ancient and cautious, adopted a wait-and-see approach. They had existed for millions of years by avoiding hasty decisions. While they disapproved of humanity's secrecy, they recognized the strategic wisdom in it. Most surprising was the Meridian sovereignty. Rather than condemnation, they expressed interest in human stealth technology. Their ambassador sent a private message, suggesting a possible alliance against Vargon aggression. The conflict that followed was brief but intense. The Vargons launched attacks on 3 human border colonies. Humanity responded by using their stealth technology to strike deep within hegemony space, disabling key military installations without destroying them. A show of power and restraint. When the Meridians officially offered an alliance with humanity, the balance shifted. The Vargons, facing a two-front war, agreed to cease hostilities and participate in peace talks. The Threll, unwilling to be left out of any new power arrangement, joined the diplomatic effort. Now representatives from all 4 civilizations would meet face-to-face for the first time. "President Clark's shuttle is approaching," Alan reported, checking another alert on his tablet. Susan nodded. Earth's leader, Diana Clark, had been elected just weeks before the Epsilon 12 incident. Instead of overseeing humanity's continued hidden expansion, she found herself managing First Contact and interstellar war. Her handling of the crisis had earned her tremendous support back home. "Admiral Wright is escorting her personally," Alan added. Susan smiled at the mention of Olivia Wright's promotion. After her actions during the battle, it was well-deserved. "And what about your team?" she asked. "Any word on your next assignment?" Alan shrugged. "Special Operations doesn't exactly publish their schedules, but I suspect we'll be busy for while yet. The Vargons may have agreed to peace talks, but that doesn't mean they've given up." A door slid open behind them, and Peter Martinez entered the lounge. The chief engineer had become something of a celebrity after the war. His work with the quantum reactive minerals had led to breakthroughs in cross-species communication technology, creating the translation systems that would make today's summit possible. "Commander Miller, Commander Price," Peter greeted them. "Exciting day, isn't it?" "That's one word for it," Susan replied. "Terrifying is another. Everything we've built could still fall apart if this goes poorly." Peter joined them at the viewport. "Who would have thought that my mining accident would lead to this? Sometimes I still feel responsible for exposing us." "It was bound to happen eventually," Alan said. "And honestly, we're in a better position now than we might have been 20 years from now. The Vargons have suffered losses. The Meridians respect our technology. Even the Threll are treating us as equals rather than children." Susan watched as President Clark's shuttle docked with the station. "It's strange to think about how quickly we went from hiding in the shadows to standing in the light." An hour later, Susan took her position in the Grand Conference Chamber as part of Earth's security detail. Around a large circular table sat the representatives of 4 civilizations. President Diana Clark represented humanity, a tall woman with silver hair and determined eyes. Beside her sat Admiral Fletcher and Admiral Wright, along with Earth's top diplomats and scientists. The Vargon delegation was led by High Commander Krell Vor, who had replaced Gulthar after the war. His scaled skin and predatory posture made his species' warrior nature clear. He regarded the humans with open suspicion. Elder Nixalis of the Threll Conclave seemed ancient, even by his species' standards. The Threll were tall and thin, with pale, almost translucent skin. They had been the first spacefaring race in the galaxy, and viewed other species as young upstarts. The Meridian delegation was led by Sovereign Guide Eliana, whose crystalline features reflected the light in fascinating patterns. The Meridians were known for their technology and adaptability, which perhaps explained their quick acceptance of humanity. President Clark stood to open the proceedings. We gather today to establish a new framework for galactic cooperation and understanding, she began. Humanity acknowledges that our method of introduction was unconventional. We chose secrecy not out of malice, but from caution. History has shown that when technologically mismatched civilizations meet, the less advanced often suffers. High Commander Krelvor growled. You built military bases on our borders. You developed weapons specifically designed to counter our defenses, just as you would have done in our position, Admiral Wright countered calmly. The fact that we chose not to strike first despite our capabilities should speak to our intentions. Elder Nixalis raised a thin hand. The past cannot be changed. We must look to the future. The question is, what role will humans play in the existing galactic order? Sovereign guide. Eliana's voice chimed like crystal. Perhaps we should ask instead, what can the existing order learn from humans? Their unique perspective has already demonstrated innovative approaches we have not considered in millennia. The debate continued for hours. Tensions flared and cooled. Proposals were offered and rejected. Yet slowly progress emerged. The Phantom Protocol would be dismantled in exchange for guarantees of human sovereignty. Trade agreements were outlined. Military boundaries established. As the first day of the summit concluded, President Clark approached Susan and Alan in a quiet moment. Commanders, your service during this crisis has been exemplary, she said. When we built our empire in the shadows, we always knew this day would come, when we would have to step into the light and take our place among the stars. Susan looked around at the representatives of ancient civilizations who now acknowledged humanity as equals. What happens next, Madam President? Clark smiled. We write the next chapter of our story, together with our new allies and old adversaries. Humanity's time of hiding is over. Our time of leading has just begun. Outside the viewport of harmony. Point. Ships from 4 civilizations orbited in formation, no longer separated by suspicion, but joined in a fragile new beginning. The galaxy would never be the same.